Hi everyone, welcome to the Applications webinar. I'm Suruthi, a Fellowship Officer, also joined by Usman and Abigail and Ellie, also in the Fellowship team. And this webinar is a bit useful about assisting with applications. I'm going to pass over to Usman now, who will say a bit more.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so I'm just going to walk you guys through a presentation. So just, Abigail, could we go to the next slide, please?
Yes, just to remind you, this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to start with a bit of an outline of what a Churchill Fellowship is and how to apply, and some tips for success, and a little bit about the support that is available from us as an organisation. And then we're going to hand over to Mark, who's going to share some insights from his fellowship, which will be really interesting. I think the highlight of the webinar. And then the second half of the webinar is the Q&A section. So that's when we'll hand over to you for your questions. And so you can start putting questions as we're talking, if you like, in the chat or the Q&A function at the bottom, or save them to the end. And Ellie will be gathering them up and putting them to our speakers in the second half of the webinar. As you'll have seen, we're recording the webinar, and the recording will go on our website shortly. So if you miss things or want to repeat what you've heard, you can go there and listen again at your leisure. And now I will move the slides on, as Usman asked me to, and we'll get going.
Thanks, Abigail. Yeah, so we'll start off with who are we and what is the Churchill Fellowship. So we were founded by public donation in 1965. So we're celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. And a Churchill Fellowship is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to follow your passion and immerse yourself for 4 to 8 weeks in learning from innovators in other countries, and then bring that learning back to inspire change in the UK. Change can be local or national, at the grassroots, or at a policy level for a sector or a community. So your idea can be micro or macro, and anything in between. It doesn't matter if you're focused on an area that another fellow is or has already explored. Each fellowship is unique because it's a combination of the person and the project. A fellowship is as much about the individual as it is about the idea, and our trustees and advisory council are a great source of support, and so is the fellowship community. Next slide, please, Abigail. Yeah, so how does it work? We have one application round a year that runs from September to November, and if you apply and you're successful, your overseas learning has to take place between the 1st of August 2026 and the 30th of September 2027. The cornerstone of a fellowship is overseas learning, but you don't actually have to travel overseas. You can learn entirely from the UK or do a mix of travel and online learning, and the way you decide to carry out your learning won't affect your chances of success. The grant you're awarded covers your travel and living costs, and also additional costs like a translator. If you have a support worker that you need to take with you, you can cover their costs as well. After you finish your overseas learning, you'll create a report within 3 months of returning. Next slide, please, Abigail. So who can apply? In order to be eligible, you have to be a current UK citizen or an Irish citizen born in Northern Ireland. You must live in the UK, and this includes the Channel Islands and Isle of Man. And you have to be 18 or over by the end of this year. There's no upper age limit, and we welcome applications from people from all backgrounds, professions, and levels of experience. And we recognize and value both lived and learned experience. Next slide, please. Thank you. So who we fund? To succeed, you don't have to be qualified or established. We're interested in your potential to make a difference to people and communities in the UK. So what really matters is your passion and knowledge about an idea that requires learning from other countries and that will have public benefit to the UK. The important thing is that you're able to demonstrate knowledge of an issue that you want to tackle through your lived or learned experience. We prioritize people who have had limited previous opportunity to to learn from overseas are less likely to receive funding from elsewhere, and for whom the fellowship could be transformative. We'll make around 110 awards in 2026. We don't know how many applications we'll receive this year, but last year we received about 1,200. Next slide, please. Thank you. These are our 2026 programs. I won't go through each of them in detail, but I just wanted to highlight the 3 new ones, which are building a society that cares, building prosperous and resilient economies, and making space for the arts. The open option is there for ideas which don't seem to fit into any of the other programs. When you apply into open, you can select general, health and well-being, or governance and public provision. It's really competitive, but we do award 30 awards, and there's 10 through each of the other programs. The main thing to get across is that your choice of program will not affect your chance of success, and will move your application automatically if it better suits another program. As a general guideline, when selecting which program to apply under, it can help to think about which sector, group, or community you most want to influence with your learning. Next slide, please. So how to apply? There's lots of information on our website to help give your application the best chance of success, and I'd recommend looking at the FAQs and program briefs. Our Fellows directory is a good way to read up on fellowships and connect with fellows. You can filter your search by year, theme, and country, and it can be a really good source of inspiration for you. When you're ready to apply, press the big red button on our app to access our application form, and do note that the deadline is on midday on the 4th of November. Next slide, please. So what do we ask? Our application form asks 4 key questions. The first is, what change do you hope to make in the UK? Here you will need to set out the current situation, what the problem or challenge is, and what you think needs to be done differently. It's basically your research question. The second is, why are you the right person to carry out a fellowship? Here's your chance to say why it should be you and not someone else doing this fellowship. Remember, we're as interested in your lived experience as we are learned. The third question is, which countries do you want to learn from and why? Explain what's special about them, and we don't expect you to know exactly who you want to visit at this stage, but you should be able to share some specific knowledge about your area of interest in those countries. And the final question is about what you will do with your learning. How are you going to share it? Who are you seeking to influence? And we understand that you're unlikely to have it all mapped out at this stage, and we know that change is complex and rarely linear, but you should be able to articulate how you'll get there and what progress will look like. Lastly, we'll ask for 2 references who are familiar with your fellowship idea or your work. Next slide, please. So here are the 5 most common reasons why an application is unsuccessful. So ideas that lack detail and don't get across what success might look like. Like I said before, we don't expect you to know everything about what you want to do at this stage, but a strong application will have enough detail for us to feel like there's potential for a fellowship there. Another reason is ideas where the benefit to UK society isn't clear, and projects where the reasoning behind the country selected wasn't clear enough. Another reason is projects that were too ambitious. A fellowship is a maximum of 8 weeks, so it would be a good idea to ask yourself, what can you feasibly learn in that time period? And finally, applications where there wasn't enough lived or learned experience on display. Next slide, please. Yeah, so here's the application timeline. So applications are open now and they close on the 4th of November. In mid-December, we'll let you know if you've been longlisted, and in February, we'll let you know if you've been shortlisted. Then the interviews take place in April and May, and you'll find out if you've been awarded a fellowship in early June. And then from August, you can begin traveling, although we can make an exception on a case-by-case basis if you want to travel slightly earlier. Next slide, please. So how can we support you to apply? We've got some more drop-in sessions this month that are more conversational, and you can sign up for these through our Eventbrite page. If you'd rather speak to us one-to-one, please send us an email and we can fix the time. If the online form doesn't suit you, let us know and we can send you an offline version of the form, or you can submit an audio recording of your answers. We can also act as scribes, so if you find organizing your answers difficult. For any of these options, please send us an email to applications@churchillfellowship.org. Next slide, please. And yeah, so support at later stages. So on the shortlist form, you can share your latest thinking, plot out your draft itinerary, and estimate your travel costs. We'll also take up your references at this point, and these form part of your application. When it comes to your interviews, we'll hold a webinar beforehand to let you know what you can expect. You can take part on Zoom or in person, and our data shows that no matter how you attend the interview, it doesn't have an impact on the outcome. When it comes to overseas learning, we offer support with planning your itinerary, advice and travel bookings, and we automatically insure all fellows. If you choose an online or hybrid fellowship, we can also cover the costs of a place to work in the UK so that you can really immerse yourself in your learning. Peer support is also available from fellows and of course the fellowship staff. Next slide, please. So post-learning support. So your fellowship report can be in any format. We've had documentaries, podcast series, websites, and of course written reports as well. It's really up to you what direction you want to take it in. Our research and engagement team will be on hand to help you with your report as well. We also offer post-learning grants of up to £500, which could help with testing, implementing, and disseminating your findings. For example, you might want to use it to run a pilot program or promote your fellowship findings through media or conferences. There's also events that aim to help fellows connect with their sector and maximize the impact of their fellowship. As for peer support, you'll be part of a network of 4,000 fellows that you can connect with, and once you're awarded, you're a fellow for life. So next slide, please. So yeah, I'll just end with a quote from Fawzia Irfan, and she said, if you have an itch which keeps telling you things can be different and a sense of there must be more out there, do consider applying for a fellowship. So I hope this helps you to motivate you to apply. And I'll now hand over to our Churchill Fellow speaker of the day, and that's Mark Brookes. Mark, over to you.
Hi everyone. I am Dr. Mark Brookes, MBE. I'm a self-advocacy lead for Dimensions, and I have a learning disability. And first of all, I want to thank the fellowship for all their support over this past year, with support around supporting me around with ideas, and I also had one-to-one support, which was also a great help from a guy named Christopher. So why I applied for the fellowship? Well, funny enough, going to the US was on my bucket list, but it was speaking to a colleague, Tony Phillips, who I've known, who's a good colleague and a good friend, and he's actually supported with my work around hate crime against people with learning disability and autism, and how it's very much underreported and there are no statistics. So I had a chat with him around what should I do, and so as America was kind of on my bucket list, with the help of my colleague Hannah, we did some research to see what America was doing around disability hate crime and to see what they were actually doing. So from that, we found that they were in the same position as us, that people with lived experience and that weren't reporting a hate crime, and police didn't know how to approach people with a learning disability to support them to report hate crime. So with that, with the help of Hannah and with the support of the Winston Churchill Fellowship, I put in an application to go to America twice, and then to also do a little bit of work in Poland. So my first visit was in October last year to attend an art convention, which is led by people with lived experience and the ARC Foundation, which is a huge foundation supporting people across the US. So yeah, so I attended the conference in October in Ohio, and first of all, it was just to meet people and talk to them around hate crime, and also I also got to do a workshop around the work that I was doing in England, and to make contacts for my second trip to the US. So that's why I applied, and the first trip went really, really well. Lots of meetings in the first week, and it was good. And it was staying in one place, which was great. So Abel got to meet lots of people in those days. Next slide. So my next trip was in February of this year, and it was going to Poland. And I've worked with, there's a guy named Thomas who I made links way before that to make contacts in Europe to see around what other groups were doing around learning disability and autism around hate crime. And what they do is statistics. So one of the issues in England, that for people with learning disability and autism, there are no statistics, where in Poland they do lots of statistics for all kinds of hate crime. But in one of the things, England don't really do statistics. So we thought this was a good link to go to Poland to have a chat, which we did, and we met 3 great people, and yes, had a good meeting with them around statistics, which then I hope to bring back to get people, organisations in England who have statistics to share with them. In fact, when I got back, before I went to America again, one of the ladies attended the meeting with the CPS and shared their work, which was really good. So that was good. And yes, so had a great 2 days, had a little time to do some sightseeing as well. So it was really a good trip. So with those 2 days, I also brought back lots of information. Next slide, please.
Can I just jump in? Could you go
Yeah.
back, Abigail? Just to say, one of the fun facts about sort of going on the fellowship for Mark, and just sort of the people that you meet and the things that you get to see. The photo there with the flags in it, that's part of the Office of Security and Nationalisation for Europe. And that room that we were interviewed in with the flags, that was where, I don't know if you know Chopin, the classical artist, that's where he had his first ever music recital. So you get to find out these little fun facts when you visit these little destinations and things. So that's quite good.
So the second trip was going to be for 10 days. So planning it was really, really, really hard. So it was trying to see what we could fit in 10 days. And again, with the help of Hannah, we did actually plan the tape. I think we did five states in 10 days. So we did Austin, New York, Washington, back to Texas, and within there, there were meetings. So we had a few meetings again with the ARC, so we're able to connect from the conference to go back and actually spend some time with the ARC Foundation, which was good. One meeting was, a couple of meetings was around how they support people when they go to court, and the support that they get, and when they actually go to court, they support them in court, and they also do a letter on behalf of that person. So, because then it explains what the disability that they have, and then with the support that they get, then they then don't go to prison. So it was really, really good to hear about. So then, because then that's something like that I could bring back to England and share across England, especially around the CPS. I've done lots of work with the CPS with the campaign I did called I'm with Sam for 8.5 years. So that was really good. And then another meeting was around communication cards, where they work with local police forces, and they did a day training around how to use the communication cards. And then the police did a role play with people around. So they did a story. So say like, which I actually got involved. So I did a role play with the police, which was really, really good. There is a video of it, but I'm still in the middle of doing my report. So it's going to be in that report. And again, we met people from the law bar association as well to have a chat with them around how they support people with learning disability, but also how they employ lawyers who have disabilities, which was really, really good. I also met a police officer who works with Europe Police across the board around hate crime, again, which was really, really good. And again, a few meetings again with the Art Fellowship. Leanne, who actually was really, really good. She supported us all the way through the trip. And also she told us, I interviewed her to ask her more questions around what ARCTUS actually does. And she actually leads on the Criminal Justice Project. So here is a few pictures.
Yeah, so this is the beauty of the Churchill Fellowship as well. As you can see, there's just a few of the sightseeing pictures in New York and throughout Austin and at the White House. And the one on the beach is with a contact that Mark had made over there. And it's the beauty of immersing yourself in these communities that you're researching. And then you build these relationships as well. So that was in Oregon coast, and she brought her dog out to meet Mark on the weekend and spent some time with him. So you meet such lovely people when you get to immerse yourself in these societies, and it's really worth it.
Next slide. And again, like I say, I was able to talk around some of the work that I've done in England over the past 30 years, especially with the I'm with Sam campaign. So some of the things I hope to do from my learning is definitely share all information from all the meetings I went, which I've already started to do, and advocate for the mandatory learning and disability training from between what we do in England and what the US training does as well. I hope to share that. Promote the ODI hate crime reporting modules to increase statistics and local knowledge around disability hate crime. To explore funding for communication cards for people with learning disabilities, and to inspire from the model from Oregon. So I met the people who actually launched it. So I met the father and son who'd actually launched these cards. And contact my USA and Polish contacts as well in the UK to, again, share ideas and hopefully for them to link up as well, so they can make links over there and they can make links over here. So here are three my top tips. I won't read them out, but one of the things is that we've found is to make sure planning, because 10 days, you may think it's a lot, but it's not. And then also just check with the hotel around when you book in, or check online, because we didn't realize that you had to pay a fee for, just in case you made a runner. So that didn't help, but you can get it back at the end of the hotel visit, but yeah, you have to wait for it. So
that only happened once on our first trip, didn't it, Mark? And it was that they took our whole travel fund as a deposit, so we we were stuck. So just check with hotels. It didn't happen to us the second time round, but I would definitely check that. Mark, it was also to keep an open mind, wasn't it? Because our objective actually changed, because it was more specifically focused on hate crime at the start. But the US work, they're less focused on hate crime in the US than they are in Europe. And so we found that we learned much more about access to fair justice for people in the criminal justice system who have learning disabilities and autism. So you learned a lot, and that was really important. And it's just about keeping that objective fluid, so that you're prepared that you might need to change, depending on what your contacts are able to provide you with in terms of learning. And also what we found, Mark, wasn't it, that your inquiries snowballed with the online calls, didn't they? So because you can connect to keep people very quickly online, they suddenly connect you to other people, and then it was just a torrent of people trying to get in contact and having to organize meetings. So having a clear plan about how you're going to run those meetings, or keep a log of them, or anything like that, because I didn't think they would, when you started, Mark, get that out of control, but they do snowball. So just be aware of that.
So really learned a lot. It was a fantastic trip. Yes, we had some downtime, but it was really good, meeting lots of people. Met quite a few people with learning difficulties as well, which was really good, because they're able to share their experiences as well.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was, and Hannah, amazing, wasn't it? Over to you, Ellie.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mark and Hannah. We have lots of questions around different sections of the fellowship, some around the actual travel, some around the application, and some around the mechanics of actually conducting the fellowship. So I'm going to go to different people and different things. Hopefully I can group them together nicely. But if we start with some questions centered more around the application that are for Usman or Abigail. So first of all, can we have a bit more information about the open category, whether or not it's a better idea to apply to the open if you're not sure, and also whether or not we move applications out of the open category into a more specific theme if they're more appropriate?
Yes. So second part of the question first. Yes, if when we're looking at applications when they first come in, they'll be reviewed, and if we feel they'll stand a better chance of success in another program, we'll move them and we'll let you know that that's what we've done. And it will only ever be because it will put you in a better position, and that does include if you apply to the open program and in reading it we think this would be a good fit for a themed program, we would move it. It is still worth applying. I mean, the open program is competitive, but as Usman said in his presentation, there are 30 fellowships available through it. So it's, there's still a good number that get awarded that way. And I think it's a very diverse, it's inevitably full of the most amazing ideas and the widest range of ideas. And I think it is definitely, if you can't really see yourself inside another program, I would just go for the open category, because it's not just an afterthought. It's a really important part of the fellowship program, and yeah, we would love to see applications coming in that way, as well as the themed programs.
Thank you very much. So we also have a question about experience and the application. So is there any difference in weight given to professional versus voluntary experience?
No, not at all. It's all considered of a piece, really, and it's all about that. I keep overusing this phrase, a golden thread, but hopefully it will make sense. It's all about making a golden thread through your application. So there should be a clear line that connects your idea, your countries, and the change you want to make. So you should, as long as it's authentic to that line, that golden thread, that's what's important. We'll just want to see that you've got the experience, whether it's lived or learned or acquired, from your family or your personal experiences or from your profession. As long as it makes sense and makes your fellowship seem achievable by you and not somebody else, then that's all good. There's no weighting carried towards it.
Thanks very much. And then the last question on the application, or the last two, are, one is about the referees. Who is best to be your referee? Can it be someone you hope to visit, a leader in the field, a colleague? And then does it matter who those people are? And then our very last question is, can you reapply if you're unsuccessful the first time?
I'll do the last one first because it's easier. Yes, you can apply again. There's no limit on the number of times you can apply to be a fellow. And in fact, I think I always quote this, and I hope it's true. It is true. Somebody was successful on their 5th attempt. So obviously a very resilient person. Ellie, you're about to correct me on that.
I think we have someone who was successful on their 7th.
7th, there we go. That's the record.
So
obviously we hope everybody here today doesn't have to apply 7 times before they're successful. But I mean, it is a good thing. And so you can apply with exactly the same idea. And we do give you a little bit of feedback, so hopefully you can make some tweaks. Or you can apply with a wholly new idea. We don't compare what you've applied before with what you're applying for again. So it's like you're starting from scratch. And then the other part of your question, I have forgotten, Ellie, so you'll have to remind me.
Who's best to be a referee?
Oh yeah,
who that person is.
Okay, well, maybe if I start this one, Osman, you could chip in as well. We don't prescribe who it should be. I think in a way it's all like who you think is best placed to kind of convince our panelists that you would make a good potential fellow. So it's people who know a bit about your how you go about your life and what you know, and your drive and your passion and your knowledge and your interest in the area that you want to go and research and learn about. So it's just somebody who can tell a good story about you and your idea. And yeah, the only thing we say is it shouldn't be a close friend or relative, so there is that distance between what they're saying and who you are. But yeah, somebody who you feel is just going to give a good summary of why you are a good potential fellow, I think is the best way of putting it. Is that reasonable, Osman, do you think? I know you look at the references a lot.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty much perfect, and they just have to have known you for a year, and that's the only other.
Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. So our next questions are about the process of travel itself. One of which Mark touched on, which is about, can you break the travel down? If you've got a 4 to 8 week fellowship, can you make multiple trips? And I think that's a nice simple one to answer, which is yes. Mark, you made 3 trips, is that right?
Yes, two trips to the States and 1 trip to Poland.
Perfect. And there's no limit on how many you can do. We just ask that you think about the environment in your planning. So although Mark made 2 trips to the US, one was to New York alone, and then 1 was spread around. Is that right?
Yeah, 4 different states. Yeah.
Perfect. There's a question about covering the cost of pre-booked travel. So Ruthie, perhaps it's best if you explain the travel process very briefly once fellows have been awarded.
So once fellows have been awarded, you send in an itinerary, and we needed to see dates in each city and one confirmed meeting in each city. And once we approve your itinerary, you can send flight receipts through, or you can go through our travel provider, who is currently Diversity Travel. So once flight receipts are put through, we reimburse you, and then your living costs and internal travel are paid 8 weeks before you depart. So I hope that answers your question.
Perfect, thank you. That also gave me a chance to plug my laptop in so that I don't disappear off this call before we're finished. Then we've also had a question about living costs and what exactly that includes, and about calculating the budget. So I should just let you know that we have an internal day rate that we've calculated for each city that you may plan to visit. And so we can help you with that. You're also asked more budgetary questions in the second part of your application, so don't worry about that too much for now. But what's covered in the living costs are your day-to-day subsistence costs of your travel. You also have an internal travel budget that's for things like trains, or sometimes internal flights if you're traveling to places like Australia, or car hire, buses, etc., etc. Hopefully that answers that question as well. Let's move on to some questions, perhaps more for Mark. Mark, there's a question about tips for people applying if they have lived experience of the issue they're planning to research. Have you got any tips for applying in general, but also with lived experience?
Well, mine was quite easier, so I knew what I was going to apply for. So hate crime, because I've done so much work of it anyway. So it was quite easy for me to pick hate crime because I'd done so much, and I knew what I was going to say around what I'd done so far. And then we did some research as well to help with the application, so we knew what we were going to say in the application. So definitely speak to the person. I had lots of conversations with other people as well, and everyone kind of agreed hate crime was one of that was the main topic why I was going over there. But yeah, definitely I have a conversation with people. It really, I would recommend it being led by a person with a learning disability, just because it'll give them great experience, great exposure as well to learn and to, but the entire journey was, like I say, US was on my bucket list, so I was able to tick that off.
I would say, Mark, having applied, the Churchill Foundation were extremely supportive about the reasonable adjustments that Mark needed to come into the program. He obviously had a support worker with him, and it was made very easy for him and very welcoming. So I definitely wouldn't see that as a barrier to applying or anything like that. They're very supportive.
Thank you, Hannah. That's wonderful to hear. We also have a question about how fellows manage their travel with full-time jobs or with potentially caring commitments or childcare commitments. Hannah and Mark, would you both like to comment on how you managed to fellowship travel alongside the rest of your life?
Yeah, you first, Hannah.
Sorry, what was it was how we managed the travel?
Yeah, how did you manage the fellowship alongside the rest of your life?
It's difficult. It is difficult, but Mark was very lucky because his employer gave him time during work hours to plan the fellowship and actually carry out the fellowship. So he was very lucky in that respect. A lot of people won't have the same flexibility. So I think it really is about trying to manage your time so that you're doing it, doing little bits where you can, getting your meetings organized online primarily first, so that you know what you're doing ahead of time, and then you can plan the actual physical meetings over the period of time that you get time off work or when you can fit it into your life. But it isn't easy, but it is doable.
Yes, I'd like to echo that. Yes, it was the planning, I think, for the second trip was a lot harder to plan than the first trip, because it was making sure that we had got enough time to meet people, and obviously as well journey times as well, from going to one state to another. around planning, so we had to make sure that they were available on that date once we knew when we were going and when we were coming back. Then it was just doing the planning over those 10 days, and it worked out really, really well at the end. So yes, so as long as you plan and have some support, but also have some fun.
Good advice. Ellie, I was just going to chip in there and say that we do recognise that the time is a barrier for lots of people with a fellowship, and maybe in particular people who have a caring responsibility or who are self-employed. And so this year, for the first time, we're piloting making some additional support available for those two groups of people, just through two programs, through the Building a Society That Cares program and the Making Space for the Arts program. So if you are applying to those two programs, you will have the opportunity to tell us later on in the application process if you would like to talk about that kind of support. So we are learning all the time and trying to make sure that the fellowship model is as inclusive as it can be. So yeah, keen to hear more from you when you get to that stage.
Thanks, Abigail. That takes us nicely on to some other questions that are linked to that topic both in the chat and the Q&A. So one is about whether or not we can cover costs associated with your home in the UK whilst you're travelling, and another is about paying for your time whilst you're doing the fellowship. Are you able to answer both of those for us?
Yes, yes, it does relate directly to what I just said. Unfortunately, at the moment, the fellowship grant is confined really to the things that Ellie talked about, the travel costs and your living costs when you're away, and incidental costs like the cost of translators and interpreters. And some organisations may charge you to look around, and we can cover those costs, conference fees and things like that. The support we give when you're in the UK is, well, unfortunately we're not able to. We don't have the resources really to be able to do that, except through this pilot that I was just talking about. And the only kind of UK-based support we give is, as Usman mentioned in the presentation, if you were doing some of your learning online and based in the UK, we could support the cost of hiring somewhere, a workspace, whatever suits you, so that you have that dedicated time away from your home. And that is it at the moment. So we can't support people's time or backfill really in any way. And it's just a matter of resources. I think we would all on this call like to be able to do more, but unfortunately we can't at the moment.
Thank you, Abigail. So we've also got a question about financial support for the organisations that fellows will be visiting, and whether or not we're able to offer any compensation for them for their time. Can you answer that one as well for us?
Yes, absolutely. We're very aware, and the last thing we would want to do is have a fellowship model that seemed extractive and exploitative. So we want to be able to support you to support the organisations that you're visiting. So yes, if you again, this would all happen at a later stage in the application process. When you get to the shortlist form stage, you'll have an opportunity to identify some of the ways in which we might be able to give you additional support to kind of acknowledge the time that people are giving you if you're visiting organisations overseas, where that would really help them. So yeah, we see that is a need, and we're very happy to consider it at that point in the application process.
Thanks very much. We've also got a question about travelling with a child with special needs, and then also adding extra travel time on the end for perhaps a family holiday trip of a lifetime. Are you able to comment on both of those while I keep scanning the chat for more questions?
Yes, definitely. I think Mark was mentioning that about how he'd been able to, include some leisure time and some, sightseeing time, and I think some of the photos are testament to that. They're great photos. So yeah, having made the trip and gone overseas, if you want to add on a holiday at some point, either in kind of as a break in the middle of your fellowship learning, or at the end of it, or at the beginning of it, indeed, that's absolutely fine. We can't support the cost of other people traveling with you unless they're a support worker that we've agreed. So we couldn't cover the cost of any family members, but if they wanted to join you and you wanted to add that on while you're there, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, does that cover those questions, Ellie?
Yeah, I think the thing to be clearest about is Unfortunately, we can't fund the travel of a child to come with you.
Yeah.
But we do understand that fellows take their family with them for lots of different reasons. Okay, we have quite a lot of questions about the itinerary and the planning and making connections with organisations abroad. So I suggest we talk about it from a fellowship side and then get Mark and Hannah to perhaps contribute as well. So one question is, do they have to have these contacts before they're awarded the fellowship? Do they need some kind of proof, some kind of letter of engagement? How much is the fellowship able to help? And also, do those contacts and meetings need to be confirmed prior to application? So I think the easiest thing to say is no. You don't need to have those contacts confirmed. You don't need to have made the initial contacts before you start. We realise that lots of this can snowball after you've been awarded. So we're very happy for you to say that this is the idea you've had and this is who you'd like to visit, but actually right now you don't have those contacts in place already. But chances are you do have some kind of connections that you're just exploring at the very beginning. Unfortunately, we aren't able to help. However, we are able to connect you with other fellows who may have been to the organisation themselves or may have alternative recommendations for other organisations to visit. Mark, how did you go about making those connections and how much did you have in place before you left the UK?
Well, obviously through the research, we found out what police states were doing and what also the Crown, the law, some of the law contacts. We'd already had a phone call as well, just find out more about what they did and if they did anything around learning disabilities. The like I say, we did do some research and then found out about that art conference. So then we obviously asked you if we could go. So to get that contact, the initial contact for our second trip. So, and also lots of phone calls with contacts that we had got in names. Then we made some team calls at very interesting times of the day. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect example of that, isn't it, Mark? Because before he'd left on his fellowship, before he was awarded his fellowship, we had identified that the ARC were doing this convention and that would be a good place for Mark to make contacts. So he made a lot of them there when he did his first actual trip. So the fellowship were very flexible around what contacts we had before being awarded, and we didn't start anything until we got the award either, did you, Mark? So
no.
Yeah.
Amazing, thank you so much. We have a question about interview panels and the diversity of representation on the interview panels. Abigail, are you able to talk to us a bit more about that and perhaps the interview process more broadly?
Yes, happily. So before you are, if you are shortlisted for an interview, we will tell you who is going to be on your panel at that point. And we're busy putting them together at the moment. And they're always a mix of trustees who sit on our board and who have a particular interest or expertise in the programme that they're on the panel for. A member of our advisory council who have even more expertise, so we share them between the programs according to where their experience is, and you can see all of those people on our website now. And then we also include a fellow, so we kind of, that spirit of lived experience, kind of embeds itself in the selection process. So we will there'll be a fellow sitting on a panel who's sat the other side of the table, just as you would as an interviewee, and knows what it's like and can talk and use their learning hopefully as a helpful prompt in the interview itself. And we do everything we can to make sure they are as diverse as possible in all sorts of ways of defining diversity. So it's always at the uppermost of our mind. And then when you get to that interview stage, as Ellie said, it's useful to mention that we try and be as thoughtful as we can about making the interview process as not as daunting as it might first appear. So first of all, we hold a webinar where we kind of give you a run through of exactly what happens and who's going to be in the room, what the room looks like, and all that kind of thing. And we share the questions in advance, so you know exactly what you're going to be asked. They're only 20 minutes, the questions, which might sound ridiculous until you get to that point, but somehow they work, and we get really good feedback about how they're run and how they feel. So and they're definitely designed to be more conversational than interrogations. So hopefully that's reassuring.
Thanks very much, Abigail. So we've got a couple of questions about applications and running other research projects and the possibility of being awarded in various ways. So I'm gonna try and cover them all. So the first one is about whether or not you can be funded alongside a different research project. The fellowship should be a standalone research project. So please do try and make it very clear. But if you're also an academic doing other research projects, that's fine. But the fellowship itself should be a standalone project. We have a question about joint applications and also individuals within an organization. So the fellowship is quite different from other funders in the sense that we fund individuals, not organizations. So we're not able to fund joint applications and we're not able to fund applications from an organization. It's an individual project. And then we also have a question about whether or not you're less likely to be awarded a fellowship if your project is quite niche, and or if your project previously had its own theme but no longer does, like our physical activity theme that no longer exists, which I think are two really cool, interesting questions.
Good question.
And the answer is no, you're not less likely to be awarded. I think the best example of a niche application is perhaps our fellow who's traveling to North America to look at how otters can be used in search and rescue because they can smell underwater when dogs can't. That was something that no one in the fellowship team had ever encountered before.
We've all learned something.
So we've all learned. So niche applications, absolutely fine. And you're not less likely to be awarded if the theme that would have been a classical fit to your application no longer exists. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, and actually on the niche thing, I often think it's a strength in a way, because it is you can imagine all the assessors like round a table reviewing all the people they've talked to and the applications they've read, and they'll be saying, oh, that's the one about the otter, or that's the one about the cheese making, which was one of my memories from last year. So yeah, it doesn't mean everybody has to have a niche, but it's definitely not going to be it's not going to do you any harm by having something very, very specific.
Absolutely. And then we also have a couple of questions about the report. Is this an opportunity to perhaps create a documentary, a visual report? And then whether or not we've ever rejected a report, is there a standard, and what happens if that report is not to standard? I think the best way to answer that one is to say that the report is designed to be tailored to you and the impact you want to have. So we don't have a standard for reports. And we'd love a visual report in the style of a documentary. Sorry.
Oh, poor Ellie. Yes, absolutely. Well, just pick up while you recover. Absolutely. The principle that you might hear us talk about in this webinar and other webinars is fellow-led. So we want to make how you carry out your fellowship work for you on your terms, and that goes right through to how you share your learning, how you write your report. It's got to suit you and your needs, and I think Mark's experiencing that at the moment. I think very supportive and flexible in terms of how he's got a lot of information to distill. It's taking a long time, but it'll be worth it in the end. And we're just happy, however it turns out, we're happy to support, and we're here if you need us to help. But we're led by you.
Absolutely, thank you. I've now recovered from my small coughing fit. We have a question about what happens if our itinerary changes significantly, or it changes unexpectedly. For example, if during a project you are able to visit another state or country. We're able to be very flexible within your awarded budget. As long as you're able to stay within your budget, you're able to add countries or change countries before you plan to travel to them. Mark and Hannah, did you experience any kind of, well, Hannah's not doing
yeah, originally we were wanting to go to Denmark in Europe but we couldn't get the contact there to respond, or we couldn't get away in there, and then we ended up being in Poland, and then Europe snowballed. It was random, but yeah, we definitely changed country in Europe anyway. US was always fixed.
Yeah, hopefully you found that an easy process.
Absolutely. You guys are very flexible. No, there was no problems at all, and we just said what happened, what needed to be, what we needed to change it to, and again, very understanding, very approachable. couldn't have been easier.
Well, thanks very much. There's a question about whether or not you have to be an academic to apply for the fellowship. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Then we've got a couple of questions about whether or not we'd recommend a specific way of presenting your research and a specific way of presenting your report. I don't think we've never had one of our reports team love to see different, innovative, interesting ways of presenting a report. We've also got questions about whether or not having studied a master's recently will affect your chances. Absolutely not again.
No, absolutely. It sounds like we're saying everything goes, but that is true, really. So you can have recently completed a master's, or you could have never done any kind of further education. Either is fine. You know, there are fellows of all sorts of backgrounds and all different kinds of experiences.
And then we've got one potential applicant just asking for point of clarification on on funding an individual. They work within a private company, and part of her role is to produce research. And so if the project aligns with the company that they work for, the company she works for then might implement her research, might learn from her research. Does that count against her? And I think the answer again is no.
I can probably jump in here as well. Mark obviously works for a organisation called Dimensions, which is where we both work. That is a not-for-profit for learning disabilities and autism support, and he's an advocacy lead for that. So his whole project aligns with what the people we support. It aligns with what he does for work, and I think that's the whole point of the fellowship as well, because that's, you want to bring back and create that change, don't you? And so if you're already in a position where perhaps through your work you're able to do that from what you find through your fellowship, I think that would be well aligned with what you are wanting to do.
That can be one of the routes to impact, and as long as you can make clear the end result is public benefit, you know, all the routes to get to that public benefit are good for us.
Wonderful.
They're really good questions. Thank you, everybody. Really help us think and get our guides in place. Just
one last question, and perhaps Mark can help us with this as well. What advice would we give to somebody who's perhaps suffering from imposter syndrome, but is incredibly passionate about their topic? And are we able to take into account perhaps being neurodivergent in that advice? Mark, what advice would you give to somebody who's feeling quite nervous about applying?
Okay, well, definitely, first of all, have a really good think yourself, because I actually have a really good think to see if I want to do this, because I know it's going to be a huge amount of work, and I was going to be traveling. So definitely you have a thing. Then speak to someone, talk about some of the issues that you might have, or if you've got any anxieties or any issues. So definitely speak to a few people, because again, that's where I did in between of applying and when I actually got it. So I spoke to lots of people around, look, I've got some issues around this and I've got some issues around that. And Hannah was great as well. She was brilliant all the way through in applying and actually going, and she's been good putting the report together. So really, it's down to you. And if you change your mind as well, that's fine. There's nothing gained or nothing lost. It's really down to you.
I don't think that there's no pressure, as there was
No.
there, Mark, and it was. Yeah,
well,
I think
there is now.
There is now. There is now. Once you got the money, you had to go and do something. But but when you're considering applying for it, I think you just believe in yourself.
Yeah.
To get the application in, and once you're talking to the team, the lovely team that you've got here sitting in front of you, they will help you with any of those sorts of anxieties or questions that you have, because that's what they're there to do. And you're never left alone. So just do it, just go for it, and you'll probably find that do the fellowship, you've got that whole experience to to really feel proud of. So I think it would be worth it. I would do it.
Wonderful, thank you. I think that brings us to the end of our questions. One more just popped in. Do we give feedback on unsuccessful applications?
Yes, we do. We do give very brief feedback. We try and when applications are being assessed, we try and come up with the main reasons why applications are unsuccessful, which is what Usman touched on in his presentation, and we use those to give you some prompts when we tell you the outcome if you have been unsuccessful. If you get to the interview stage, there's a lot more feedback, because there's probably a lot more to say, because we know a lot more about your idea by that point. But yes, we can give you a little bit of advice, and that is probably a good moment to draw it to a close, isn't it? Thank you. I'm going to do the thank yous, which are many. Thank you to Ellie for fielding such amazing diversity of questions in such an expert way. Thank you. And thank you to Rudy for welcoming us, Usman for the presentation. Biggest thanks of all to Dr. Mark Brookes and to Hannah for being our guest speaker today, and for really bringing to life what a fellowship is and what it can be. Totally inspiring, and very grateful for your time and thought today. And then final thank yous to all of you for coming and asking such brilliant questions. And they genuinely do help us, because they make us think what we need to get across, make more clear perhaps, and help us learn as well. We're always learning. So that's it. I'm going to end by wishing everyone the best of luck if you do make an application this year or next. And feel free to get in touch if you've got any questions that you haven't answered today. And that's it. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.